and artists and designers to create artistic tools that break down complicated policies. And Envisioning Development Toolkit is one of our programs that creates interactive workshops to explain key concepts about land use in New York. This is the third one that we've done with Community Board 4. We did what is affordable housing, what is zoning, and today is what is ULURP. This workshop explains what ULURP is, why it exists. In the first part of the workshop, we'll learn that ULURP is a process, and we'll cover what all the steps are and who the actors are. And then in the second part of the workshop, it's a role-playing game where we're going to play out a full ULURP process, and y'all will negotiate amongst yourselves to build not a building, a sandwich. So has everyone had a chance to fill out the before side of the survey? Just on the left side for now, and then at the end of the workshop, we'll fill out the right side. Okay, great. And let's do a brief round of intros before we get started. We can pass the mic and just say your names, your pronouns. If you belong to some organization, feel free to let us know. And name a question that you have about ULURP.
Hi, my name is Nico. I'm a member of Community Board 4. My pronouns are he, him, his. And a question I have about ULURP is, what is ULURP?
I'm Joanna Bennett, a member of Community Board 4. And again, what is pedagogy?
Oh, yeah.
It's an excellent question.
My name is Kim. I'm the community liaison for Community Board 4, she, her, ella. And my question is, what does ULURP look like in a community setting?
I am Anne from Community Board 4, she, her. And my question is, how can the community have a little bit more say in the process?
Hi everyone, my name is Christian, pronouns are he, him. I'm also here with Community Board 4, I'm a non-board community member. And my question is kind of similar to Anne's. I'd like to hear more about the specific levers that are available to communities and community boards to influence the process.
Hi, I'm Carlotta, and I'm a member of Community Board 4, and I want to know what ULURP is.
I'm Wilfredo. I'm a member of the community, not the board, but the community at large, and he, him. And what makes him so powerful? What makes the ULURP process so powerful that people cannot intervene in it?
Hi, I'm Ben, he, him pronouns. I'm with Community Board 4. My question about ULURP is why has it not been modernized since the rules were laid out in the beginning?
Hi everyone, my name is Ani. I'm from the Center for Urban Pedagogy. I'm a community education assistant there. And my question, pronouns they, them. My question about ULURP is, where are some of the pressure points where community can have more voices, similar to Chris's question?
And again, my name is Agustin, he and they pronouns. And I hadn't prepared a question for myself. But I like Ben's question, why has it been the same for so long? And I don't know the answer to that one. Okay, before we get started, is it all right if we take pictures during this? If anybody doesn't want to, feel free to approach us after or during, and we'll make sure you don't appear in the pictures. And with that, I'll hand it over to Ani.
All right. Hi, everyone. So we're going to start off with the first question, which is, what is ULURP? Can anyone take a guess at maybe what this acronym stands for? Raise your hand.
Universal Land Use Reform Process. Review process. Not very little reform.
Spot on. And can anyone tell me what does that mean? Like, what does ULURP do?
The first U means that everyone has to go through the exact same process, no matter what kind of change they're trying to, land use variance they're trying to make. The rest is why I'm here.
Any other guesses that what ULURP is for? Anybody else?
Picking up on, I could just use one. Picking up on what Ben was saying, that it's everybody has to go through the same process, and there's time clocks. Like this portion takes 1 month, this takes 3 months, that takes 40 days, or just so everything, like it's a predictable schedule, so everybody who's involved knows how much time they have to push back and forth.
Spot on. It's literally just the official process that the city uses for any major land use decisions. So we're going to look at each of these letters one at a time. As Ben and Anna brought up, the U stands for uniform. And what that means is that it's the same process every single time. And every time something goes through ULURP, it takes the same amount of time so that it's predictable. And before ULURP, these processes could take forever, and there's really no time limit for how long this would take. And now with ULURP, the uniform timeline makes it just much more predictable, which developers really like and many community members like as well. The LU stands for land use. So only things that are related to land use can go through ULURP. Can anyone describe what land use means?
Could zoning be something that's like limited to in terms of what the land can be used for?
Those are both excellent guesses. Land use is stuff that's related to related to zoning. I guess it would, wouldn't it, in some aspect, because land use is like the environmental studies that happen as well. That is it.
I think it's anything related to the zoning code.
Yeah.
Anything that is text on the zoning code or that then it meets a ULURP process. But I don't know if air rights are on the zoning code. That's a good question.
That's a good one. That's why. But yeah, zoning, nearby constructions, and most things related to the city. And then the R stands for review. ULURP is a public review process. And that means it's a way for the public to get to hear and weigh in on major decisions that might affect their community. Before ULURP, there's no consistent way for the public to get involved and engaged, and ULURP was created to change that. The public here means that individuals have the right to make their voices heard to some extent, and that those who are appointed have a responsibility where they are required to formally and publicly acknowledge these opinions that are made publicly. And the P in ULURP stands for process, which is what process is. It's, procedure. It's a bureaucratic process that happens. So now that we know what ULURP stands for, can anyone tell me what it's like really used for? What kind of things have to go through a ULURP process? Any guesses? Any other guesses? Well, yeah, like what you said, ULURP is how the government gets involved in many major development and major land use issues in some way. And if it's big enough, it'll probably go through ULURP. The ULURP review applies to several things, and we'll just list a few real quick. ULURP applies when public land is bought, given away, or sold. ULURP is also applied when the city picks sites for new facilities like a firehouse or a sewage facilitation plant. When the city's official map is changed, so like when streets are added or changed. when the city proposes an urban renewal plan, when laws about land in a city, like you mentioned, get changed, like considering rezoning and zoning and historic preservation. And when the city or a private developer proposes to build something that requires special approval from the City Planning Commission. So what things don't go through ULURP? A lot of things, to be honest. Anything that is built as of right, meaning that it's allowed to exist under current rules and doesn't have to go through any special approval, does not go through ULURP. So that's most things that get built in New York City, actually. Most development proposals don't go through ULURP, but if a developer needs to get permission to do something major, which is more common for like a larger development, especially ones that span across multiple sites, then they have to go through the ULURP process. All right. Any questions before we move on to our next activity where we break down who's key players in the ULURP process? It's a good question. We're going to explain that a little bit in the who's process. All good. This is a good question.
Okay, sweet. So we're going to look at each of the roles now and understand the order in which they go. So I'm going to need y'all's help for this one. If everyone can look at their who's who handout. And we'll go one at a time, and I'll ask whoever is playing that role today to read the description of that actor when we get to it. So as we've said, ULURP is a process to review a land use proposal at all of these levels of government that you see in front of you. For today, we're going to be looking at a development proposal. So this is a developer comes in, wants to build a building or a set of buildings that isn't allowed to be built under the existing zoning code. So it triggers a ULURP process. So could the developer please read the description?
A developer. In a development proposal, the developer proposes development and works with the Department of City Planning, the DCP, to make sure the proposal is legal and likely to be approved. In a neighborhood rezoning, the developer advocates for the Department of City Planning to create zoning rules that will allow the developer to build as much as possible.
That's right. So the developer is proposing, financing, overseeing, and owning a development project. And they're going to try to get it approved because that's their business and they can make money on it. And there are nonprofit developers, too, who also try to get projects through. So, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but
yeah.
So are developers more likely to push for a neighborhood rezoning so that it's like a one-time thing and then they can just build as of right, bigger than before, and they don't have to read ULURP all over again? Or are they more likely to push on an individual basis?
My sense is that it's an individual basis. If anybody else has experience that says otherwise, I think, yeah.
I think just watching the process, so there was one in Gowanus, I think last year, and that was like a 5-year process. We worked on something called the Bushwick Community Plan, also 5 or 6 year process. Those take so long. I don't think it's usually one developer behind it. I know that the council members, then council members Reynoso and Espinal, were the ones really encouraging community discussions around the Bushwick proposal. I don't know who brought up the Gowanus one, but it's, I think it's, historically it's not like one developer, like groups of people, many of whom might be developers, but.
That's my understanding too. I think the Department of City Planning might initiate a neighborhood rezoning if they're trying to push through a new mayor's agenda. So like de Blasio wanted to increase affordable housing. So there were a lot of neighborhood rezoning proposals that the Department of City Planning was initiating. And like with the Bushwick community neighborhood rezoning, that was one that was started by the community, but then when it got pitched, got changed enough by the Department of City Planning that it was then not accepted when it when they came back and said, well, would you accept this? That's my understanding of it.
But also the Bellagio administration shot it down because it wasn't an upzoning enough, basically. They were only looking to upzone everything.
Yeah, and they said it was too much work, and there was more. It wasn't upzone enough, which was crazy. So, or we said that's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, normally just like a plot wherever it is that they want to build.
Unless it's like a large conglomerate of them, and they're also like in line.
Yeah. So in this spot rezoning, who is it that the developer is bringing their plans to? Period. It's done. Sorry, do you mind using the mic? And yes, please read the description for DCP.
Department of City Planning, DCP. In the development proposal is the city agency that reviews initial applications and guides them through steps of the ULURP process. CDP works with the applicant to ensure the proposal is likely to be approved. So I am out. In neighborhood rezoning, CDP is usually the applicant proposing the rezoning, but a developer or the public could too. DCP develops the rezoning proposal and guides it through the steps of the ULURP process.
Yeah, go for it.
DCP works to make sure the proposal is approved.
Well, it's in DCP's interest, if they're going to go through the trouble of pushing it through ULURP, that it, hi. Hi, Mr. Camacho, you can be community member 2. That's you, Madam Mayor. Oh, you're good.
So it's not a process of apply. You may get rejected, but the agency itself is working for the project.
So this is what we've looked at so far is before ULURP begins. ULURP hasn't started yet. If the developer is pitching a project that can't be approved without a ULURP process, the Department of City Planning is going to work with that developer as much as possible before the whole thing starts to create a project that's likely to sail through ULURP, because it's not worth the trouble if it's a proposal that's going to get rejected. So that's what that was trying to say. And reminder that DCP is a city agency, so its staff work for the city and the mayor. And the head of the DCP is appointed by the mayor to help them carry out their land use goals for their term. So this process that we're talking about can take years, and it all is happening before ULURP has actually started. When DCP says that the application is complete, meaning that they think that it's a proposal that could make it through, they start the ULURP process by certifying the application, and that's when it gets sent to all the other players to review. So who is the first player that the Department of City Planning brings the proposal to? That's you, Carlota.
Community board members are appointed by the borough president and nominated by city council members to represent their district. They hold a public hearing during ULURP and make advisory recommendations on the proposal. In the neighborhood rezoning, the Department of City Planning will bring a rezoning proposal to the community board for input early in the process and will want the community board's support before moving forward.
Perfect. So in this process, some of the actors get to make recommendations and some get to vote. So community boards can recommend. And the options that they have to recommend are yes, yes with modifications, no unless modified, or just plain no. So what do y'all think is the difference between, actually it was yes with changes, between yes with changes or no unless modified? Uh-huh.
Well, I mean, the yes with changes is seemingly, it's conditional, but it sounds like they can go through with it anyways. And no, unless, what is it? No,
Modified.
Modified means that they haven't even thought about saying yes to it yet. It's
I
just
also-
to re-propose the whole thing.
I also think, like, from an advisory perspective, like our perspective, like the role of the community board is to then put forward, like, if we approve yes, as whoever sees it next, it's like we're giving them sort of a set of things that they should take into consideration, whether the community thinks should be considered as they advocate for the project, maybe from a different lens.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's just what it sounds like. It's a stronger vote in favor. If you say yes with modified, it means we pretty much like it. Just these tweaks need to be made. No unless modified is there's something fundamentally wrong here, and unless you change those things, we really don't want to consider it.
Where's the developer in all this at this point?
The developer is standing back and watching it happen, showing up to public hearings to try to push it through.
Let the city do his bidding for him.
Well, the developer is now like waiting for it to go through the ULURP process.
They can pass, but he can pass muster.
Right.
Basically. But he's sitting back at this point.
He's sitting back and sending people over to the public hearings to make it sound okay.
Does the developer at this point with the community, does he or she come before the community, personally before the community board tries to lobby the community board?
So if a developer's smart, they might have even talked to the community board at the same time they're talking to the Department of City Planning or even before. What is it you guys want? What is going to make this happen? They might have even signed a community benefits agreement with the community board, which is going to really look good for the rest of the actors if the community board is on board. Yeah.
Oh, just I remember our next community board has a project that just got certified for ULURP. So on Tuesday, it's that factory building, the Metropolitan Millwork on Flushing Avenue. That just got certified, so they'll be coming before to get like in real time.
Yes.
So along the way, when the community board makes recommendations or suggestions, the developer then also takes that and then makes adjustments to the proposal, or like, right?
Yeah.
Like
So.
they're not just kind of like sitting back; they're also like taking it in.
Yeah, I mean, not at this point. From the moment it starts ULURP, that proposal is the one that's getting pushed through. So any changes would have to happen before the Department of City Planning pitches it. Any changes that come from the developer would have to show up in the proposal before it starts ULURP. And then as it goes through ULURP, there's room for negotiation there, but at that point, it's the community member saying, for this to go through, we need the developer to sign on to this. And then, of course, what could happen is it could make it through ULURP with all of those changes, and the developer is like, well, I don't want to build it. And so then it's an approved thing that just sits empty.
And oftentimes we look at things and we say contingent upon this. The way you're describing the process, it doesn't matter what we say. That's what I'm hearing.
I think
It's
similar
all or
to-
nothing.
It's
Like
advisory. It's advisory, right? Like it's similar to the SLA process. Businesses come and then we give recommendations saying, hey, these are the hours that we're suggesting. But at the end of the day, SLA makes the actual license definitely advisory in that sense.
It's not for nothing. I mean, you as the mayor have veto power, but as a community member, if you show up to a public hearing and have a specific complaint that is part of the public record, then let's say the community board votes no with modifications. Every other actor is going to look back at the history of ULURP so far, and if they see that it's not passing muster with the community board, that matters, because it doesn't look good for anybody if they approve something that the community board has rejected. It's not determinative, you're right. It could happen.
The community board and say, oh, I'm not gonna approve this unless you guys like it. So
In the Soho rezoning, didn't the community board vote it down and it still passed through as a city councilor? But I think that was a really rare thing. It almost never happened. But they didn't want affordable housing.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Yeah, exactly. What's that? Did they disagree? I can't remember.
Maybe, but not everybody was in line.
Yeah,
It's not like everyone said yes on
They said
all
there
of it.
wasn't
Exactly.
They was, why should they reject it and other communities have to take it? So I think
Exact-
that was
I
the
think
argument.
they-
That was the argument.
And they were being cranky about it. But that almost never happens when the community board gets overruled like that.
Does the borough president usually go in line with the community board, since the borough president's like the one appointing the community board members?
That's right. So the borough president is going to want what the community board wants, but also want what the mayor wants.
Depending if they get along with each other, I think they're different in regards to their differences.
That's true. That's true. I'm not familiar with the Soho example, but there was an example where I think for the Kingsbridge Armory in the Bronx, the Bloomberg tried to push through the proposal, but it went back to city council and it got voted down because the developer hadn't signed a community benefits agreement. Yeah. Okay, so we're at the community board. They've made their recommendation, and then who does it go to?
Borough president?
That's right.
Borough president is elected by borough residents. They make advisory recommendations on the proposal.
Okay, sweet. So they can make the same recommendations that the community board can make. So again, yes with changes, no unless modified, or no. So the district representative.
Council who also take what role do they play in any of this? If it just goes straight from community board to, sorry, maybe I'm skipping.
Well, there is city council who we'll get to in a minute.
But if someone specifically who represents this specific district, I'm curious if they play a unique role in the process.
They do indeed.
Yeah.
Okay, and so we've already said that the borough president is going to care about what the community board thinks, but they're also going to be wanting to get along with the mayor if they can, if that's possible. So the borough president has 30 days to review the proposal, and they make recommendations. So then where does it go?
City Planning Commission reviews land use issues and has 13 members appointed by the mayor, 7 of those. The borough president appoints 5, and the public advocate appoints 1. The head of the Department of City Planning is also the chair of the City Planning Commission, the CPC. CPC holds a public hearing and votes to approve or disapprove the proposal. Their decision stands unless the City Council overrides it.
That's right. So they've made the first vote in the process. They're either approving with modifications, or disapproving. If they disapprove, this project is dead and ULURP is finished. When the CPC is reviewing, what they are specifically looking at are whatever was studied in the environmental impact statement. So that is something we haven't mentioned yet, but it would have happened before ULURP started. The developer would have presented this proposal to DCP. Once they got it to a place when they think it could pass, they conduct the environmental impact statement and that they research two things. What would happen if nothing gets built, and what would happen if the maximum amount got built for this proposal? And they then have this report that looks at all these things like shadow studies, overcrowding in schools, how much pollution would increase because of it. And so what the City Planning Commission is doing is reviewing that environmental impact statement and making a recommendation based on those factors. They are not looking at things like fair wages or unionization or anything that's not included in the land use investigation. Yeah. Where are you reading that?
13 members appointed by the mayor, the borough president, and the public advocate.
That's a great question. Yeah.
Yeah.
The third in line.
Or it's
and it's an elected role.
Somebody went to what was Letitia James?
Yeah, didn't it start like about
Yeah, it was 6, 7 years.
25 or 30 years ago?
It was 6 or 7.
Yeah, I think it was like Mark Green or something.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And they are, sorry.
So they, they have, it's like an amorphous role, but they advocate for policies and, they stick up for us. Yeah, they are elected.
For that specific role?
For the city.
That's an elected role, yes.
So the difference between the Department of City Planning and City Planning Commission is that the City Planning Commission is another different group of individuals that are elected by
Appointed.
Sorry. Yeah, they're a city agency, and the leader of the Department of City Planning is appointed by the mayor.
But they only review stuff, whereas DCP actually draws the maps and stuff.
That's right.
And go or no go for the city planning commission on a particular development project? Go or no go?
Or yes with
No
changes.
Oh,
They can do yes with changes, or no.
what about changes could be the future use of that land? For housing, I don't know. This would throw out some.
Definitely. They can propose any changes, but what they can't do is exceed development that was considered in the environmental impact statement. So anything bigger than that is not up for grabs. And if they wanted that, they would have to start the whole ULURP over. But they can also always propose less. So they can say, instead of the 26-story tower, we propose 20.
The racial impact study now, that they're going to amend that, is that going to be part of the ULURP process, that's happening now?
Oh, that's a great question. The Racial Impact Study Coalition.
Yeah, and I know it passed to city council, and also it was voted in, so I know that there are people outside there that are starting to organize and be part of this ULURP in regards to the racial impact study that has been implemented, let's say.
Yeah. The way I understand that works is that on top of the environmental impact statement, they have to staple a report with data that they got from the equitable development data tool, and in order to consider displacement. I think displacement was already something that was.
It was already baked in it, but this is just like another T to it to make sure that people aren't displaced, and making sure that people that live in the area that continue. So that's a big process now, because I am part of that organization that has been pushing for the racial equity every month or two, and we make sure that, and they're starting to do stuff in regards to the ULURP and making sure that if they're going to develop that, it has interest in minorities, that people that live in that area. So.
Yeah, that's a great project. Are others familiar with this? Cool. All right, so it's been voted on in the City Planning Commission. They made a vote for the first time, and now it's going to City Council.
Yes, city council members are elected. They vote to approve or disapprove the proposal, or they can let the city planning commission decide. City planning commission's decision stand. Their decision is final unless the mayor wants to veto it.
That's great. And so here to your question, you were asking if the local city council member played some kind of outsized role. So what often happens is that the other city council members will look to what the local city council member is voting, in what way they're voting, or what they care about, and will often defer to them and vote along the same lines as them, because then they expect that in return if the ULURP process is for them.
In the Bronx, there was an incident in the Bronx when one of the city council didn't sway with the area that was supposed to be his, and he was supposed to vote, and they voted against the person.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty big, and a lot of people was a little not happy that that the council voted against, and it was the guy's area that he was in.
Is that Inwood?
Yeah, Inwood, wasn't it Inwood? Yeah, there was a project, Inwood, and
Yeah, I think the city council was pretty pissed off at him.
yeah. And it was his area.
Yeah,
And he didn't
I
want
read that
to
somewhere.
go through, and city council voted that.
Yeah,
in,
that
and
was
he
one of his big complaints. They didn't consider.
That's what they do the voting on the city planning commission as well, right? If the borough president is, if they look to the borough president who has the borough where the project is, and then they all vote according to what that borough president says.
Mhm.
That would make
That's
sense.
like a courtesy, it's like house rules,
Yeah,
like
but
the
just like the borough boards, when we go to the borough boards, there's things that come up that that the borough boards have to vote, but it's not specifically in Bushwick. So we recommend and work with them because that's the project they want. If they want it, if they don't want it, then we'll together at the borough board says no. If they don't, if the community doesn't want it, and the board chair says that they voted it down in committee, and they went through the full board and they voted down, you know, go to the borough president who say no to it too. So it's like, more of teeth to nail to make sure that it doesn't, when it does go to city council, saying that the community board voted no on it, the borough president and borough boards voted no on it, and then they can so much more.
I have one more question before we move on the city planning commission. If they vote no, is that the end of the project? Does it go before the city council for them to turn it around?
If the City Planning Commission has voted no, that's the end of ULURP. Yeah. Right.
But they wouldn't really vote no because they were the ones who were trying to push it through.
Sorry, who wouldn't?
City Planning Commission.
Right.
They are influenced by the Department of City Planning very heavily.
Right.
So
it's very
probably in their best interest to not kill it at
Right.
this point.
Are there any examples that you are well familiar with where the CPC shot something down before anyone else got to it?
I don't know of any examples of that.
Because the mayor appoints
Yeah,
the majority.
which would make sense
So,
then, yeah.
If you want to stay on the
It would
city
have to
planning
be,
commission.
You want to keep your job, buddy, if you don't want your job, then you don't do it.
Plus, there's a possibility of building coalitions there with
Yeah,
Republicans, but still a minority, but still. You get a
I don't
rogue,
think any of us would want to go against the boss, right?
why not?
If he's paying you your bills and then he says,
Oh, these people, oh, look.
no, what I'm saying, in general, if you don't want to go over your boss, sometimes we do try to make a point across if you close with your boss, but if your boss wants to put something in his agenda, he's gonna say, well, guess what?
Yeah, and some people are willing to sacrifice that.
And some people aren't.
It is what it is.
I did read about an example where the local city council member around the Grand Central Station neighborhood rezoning, the local city council member was not in favor of it, and it seemed like all the other city council members were going to vote along the same lines as the local city council member shutting down the project. and Mayor Bloomberg pulled the application before it could be complete because he thought it was better to have pulled the application rather than to have a no vote.
Yeah, maybe he can bring it back in the table without being shot down the first time.
But the
So
interesting
the
thing is
philosophy
that,
is why let's put it there when we know it's gonna get out.
but the interesting thing in that is that it must have had a no vote at the city planning commission, even though he appointed the majority.
I think it made it through the city planning commission, but when it got to city council, the local city council member started raising, and then it seemed like everyone else was going to vote with him.
But, sorry, so the mayor could pull it even though it hadn't got to his table yet?
Yeah.
Is that-
Yep.
Oh, wow.
The mayor can pull it if.
Take it out.
Mayor Bennett is very
Yeah.
and humble.
Okay, great. So last thing about city council is they can consider anything beyond land use. So they can consider labor practices, unionization, or any other types of agreements that the developer ought to make with the community for this to pass. And because they're a lawmaking body, they can make those enforceable by just making a law. So who's left?
Elected by city residents, he or she can veto the city council's decision, but rarely does. And city council can override the veto with a 2/3 majority. In a neighborhood rezoning, the Department of City Planning works for the mayor, and their rezoning proposal will be substantially shaped by the mayor's agenda for the city.
That's right. So they have 5 days to veto it if they don't want it or to approve it. If it gets vetoed, it goes back to city council, and that veto can be overridden with a 2/3 majority. The mayor is almost never going to veto a proposal because if it's made it this far, there's support for it. But as we said, they can pull the application if it looks like it will be rejected by the community. Again, it looks like the mayor plays a small role because of this last minute thing, but it's a really big role because they've appointed the head of Department of City Planning. They've appointed more than half of the City Planning Commission. So they probably have the most say. and they want that re-election. So who's missing from everyone we've talked about? That's right. So where do the community members come into this process?
Yeah, don't have a vote until ULURP. The comments during the public hearing held by the community board, the city planning commission, and the city council. They can also have election officials accountable to the community's goals. In the neighborhood rezoning, because rezoning is public proposal, community members have had more say about how it is shaped, and they have more chances to weigh in thoughts, extra public meetings organized by the city.
Great.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are 3 required public hearings during a ULURP process. The first one is for the community board. Another required one is for the CPC, City Planning Commission. And then the last required one is City Council has to hold one as well. And the borough president may hold one if they choose to, but they're not required to.
Community board chairs. So it would benefit. It would benefit if there's something coming down the line, and I know the borough president, that I would have our colleagues from each community board to weigh in, and it can persuade them, the borough president, to work with the community, because I have seen it lots of times where things may work out and the community boards, all 18 boards,
sense. So someone was asking when community members can get involved. This is a great place. And another great place is when the environmental impact statement is being discussed for the first time. So this is the first time that a community can hear about a proposal. It's before ULURP has started. And at this meeting, they'll talk about all the standard things that they look at in an environmental impact statement. And at that time, the community can come in and propose other things. So for instance, if they're saying, you know, we're having 80% luxury housing with 20% affordable housing, the community can say, well, you should study what it means if it's 50% affordable housing, or if you have to, you know, build a new school as well. So they can influence what is studied during the environmental impact statement, because then it means that they have that leverage to play with as it goes through the ULURP process.
Top of my head, they would know more or less the numbers that they will be playing with even before they come to it, because we know the real fact. Yeah, of course. If they know what they're doing. Yeah, they know what they're doing. Yeah, because we see it. We've been around the block a while, and we have seen it where we know they measure their square footage. They already know more or less how much median income or what they can, and if we try to pull more teeth, but we're not going to go with that proposal because it doesn't benefit us, and we don't get any more money, anything more by helping the community. And those are the things that a lot of people don't, they don't see that. Guess what? It's a business. I want to make money. That's what I come here to do. I don't come here, you know, I'll give you a little bit, but you're not going to get full with that. That's not what we come to do. We come to make our money because we got to pay our bills. So sometimes, and especially those studies may be old, or some of the studies may be now, and it's not what we saw back then. And you know what I'm saying? Just like when we had people that were making top was 30,000, 20,000, when now more people are making more, and that's why I keep telling everybody says, oh yeah, they need, the minorities need more raises, but they'll give you the raise that's at the high end, but guess what? You won't qualify for some of these subsidies. So now, either you want the raise, and you get taxed on that raise, and your benefits come out of that raise, so you really didn't get a raise, or leave it like it is and you can get a subsidy that benefit. Because I know now people that make 16,000 back there, 17,000, are making 25,000, and don't qualify for food stamps because they're $1 older, or don't qualify for house.
Or they bought eggs.
And that's why when we keep saying we need raises, eventually they're saying, well, guess what? We're gonna push you up to where you think middle class, and you're really not middle class. And that's how the numbers come and flex when we see.
But also, I think that's, there's so little of the deeply affordable housing that it's, I think, you know, we obviously always push for the maximum deep affordability because there's just a terribly small amount.
But you know, to Mr. Camacho's point, we just got a news report that talks about how many blacks have left New York. They can't afford to live here, and that's a big problem. I wanted to ask a question. Other than air pollution, what other factors go into an environmental impact study?
Right, so a lot of it is overcrowding. So how will schools be affected by all of these new families coming into this area? It's also like blight studies, like how much more light will this block onto the street?
Flooding conditions, how much more toilet and water.
So that's the question I have, is when they're doing these ULURP studies, are the utility companies like Con Edison and National Grid, are they pulled into the conversation? Because we're talking about, I always ask that question, when you're talking about maybe tripling the population, and then Con Edison already tells you, oh, when it's 85 degrees, turn off your air conditioning in New York City. And then you have all these new developments go on where everything is operated by electricity, the stoves, everything. Yes. Are those people these utility companies, monopolies, part of this conversation. And how does that impact the people who already live there? So I'm just wondering, this ULURP, does that ever come into consideration?
That's a great question. I think Con Ed would want to be like involved in it so they can advocate for its built to get more customers.
Yeah, but the question is, are they and can they deliver? We see, that's the question.
Yeah.
And how does it affect the rates of the people who, sure, they're gonna get hit who are already there and being pushed out. These are a bunch of questions. Look at what.
If you're Con Edison, let's say for instance, if you're Con Edison and you know that all the houses are gonna be now gonna eliminate the stoves, they're gonna be electrical stoves. You're not gonna go say, I want to be part of ULURP, because you know you are gonna be.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
They're
Because you're
gonna
gonna do
get it
electric.
anyway.
So you're gonna get it anyway.
Can you
Why would I do a ULURP or tell you to come? And it's just me when you know.
Right, exactly. It's the answer is going to be build it so we can get
That's
more
right.
customers.
That's
Yeah.
right. So there was common sense.
There was I believe in Harlem there was a school built up on top of a building which was contaminated. It was a brownfield basically. It was contaminated by perc, and the environmental studies that they performed did, for whatever reason excluded that or didn't include that or they evaluated that. Can the community create an environmental study and present it to the city plan? Can we do that? I mean, it costs a lot of money, I'm sure. Can we do that? Can we just look at a piece of land and say, this land is contaminated, you can't build houses upon it because it will, the fumes will kill people, whatever.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think in a developer scenario like we're looking at, the developer would hire a consultant who is preparing that study.
Correct.
And
Now you're talking corruption, come on. If I hire you, that's the house, the fox watching the hen house. I can make that report show with everything I want to.
You think you're gonna do that report to benefit him? You're gonna do, but it's not toxic, but we'll wait up in 50 years, I already made my money and everybody dead, so.
Yeah.
Like everything else.
Can the community board finance something like that?
They're super, it costs like half a million.
I know they're expensive, but
But there's universities, look like Cornell University in Jamaica, they can do something, they got students to do.
Isn't that the port, the Woolport site that they.
Oh, the Wolf Outport,
Woolport
yeah,
site that was on Cooper.
Cooper,
They did the same thing when
And
there
that's
was
got a lot of
radiation.
nasty stuff.
Yeah, there was radiation back
Yeah.
then, and the school was closed
Yeah.
down because they found radiation under the school and they were
Yeah.
trying to develop. So right now the federal government had to come in. See, a lot of people don't know. There was radiation and the thing, and they still developed, they still, right across the street,
yeah.
Or
it's
Audrey
not-
Johnson.
It's not going to that far.
Yeah. That like fun glowing martini.
And it wasn't glowing the type you wanted either. When you go to the bathroom, you need to turn the light on.
just open your mouth.
Or your teeth.
But one thing I was really surprised to learn about the environmental impact statements, it's like this massive checklist. It's not like creative writing or, oh, let's investigate all this other stuff. It's like literally go down like this 500 box list. So it's not like, oh, we should really be investigating, X, Y, Z. It's like, if it's on the list, it's on the list. If it's not, it's not. And so there's a lot less leeway. I was really surprised to learn that.
But I agree with you. It's very expensive. It's very thorough. It's very thick, particularly thick because they don't want people to understand
Exactly.
what the hell they're talking about.
If that's the case, they would have hired you if it would have been what?
What? Hire who?
I mean, they would have hired, if it would have, if the survey would have been easy, any of us could have did. You know what I'm saying? So they do it hard so that they can make believe that it's really intense, which we know it is intense. So why would do something that's not gonna benefit them? It's gonna benefit themselves. You know?
I'm not quite sure I follow it, but.
Meaning the survey itself. If it was a survey that it's easy that we can do ourselves, they always make things hard because they're the only ones that can do it. Some of the things that we would ask for, oh, that's not my job, that's not part of the description, that's on the sheet of paper that I gotta look for.
Yeah.
But yet we know the area very well, oh, but that's not on it, so we're not gonna look for that. And we're only gonna look for
But
these things that are on this sheet of paper.
Let me just be clear. I mean, they don't have to hire you to do that.
Correct.
They can hire anybody.
Yeah, I think we can move on. So that is the process. That's like the theory we're going to study, and now we're going to put it into practice and role play a ULURP process.
Acting class. So who's gonna be the developer? I wanna see that. I didn't see that.
Wait to be developed.
My role is easy. Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Anything else?
Excellent.
Yes.
Anything I want, yes. All right,
Yes.
great.
Oh, so you're
Walk
gonna
out here with my
develop
money
something.
bags.
I'm gonna run from there.
So I'm developing the sandwich here.
A sandwich. Ham sandwich?
I have to step out, unfortunately, but good to see you all.
Yeah, but you're supposed to be the borough president, you can't leave.
Last time Mr. come up, we were going to ask if you could play the borough president.
Oh, deal, man, that guy giving me.
Just giving you a promotion.
Oh, that's not a promotion. That's more work. That's more work.
Thank you very much.
You have the power.
I stand strong in my role.
I want a public hearing, please. I don't care, I need a public hearing.
Vocal in this conversation.
You can tear it all down.
100%.
Or eyewitness news, that's you.
There we go. Where's ULURP 1 here? Right there.
All right, thank you all so much. We're about to get into the role-playing part of our session. So now that you understand what the ULURP process is, we're going to try it out for ourselves. And specifically today, we're going to do a proposal for a major development by a private developer. And since the developer wants the city to rezone the blocks that this development will be located on, it has triggered the ULURP process. So rezoning is when the zoning laws get changed, and those changes might allow for maybe bigger or taller buildings, or change the use in that area, like what Anna brought up earlier, factories changing into housing, etc. And with that, you all have your tent cards in front of you, and we're going to engage in the ULURP process. So right now on the wall, it looks like a pretty straightforward process, but ULURP is, as most of you know, a lot more complicated than that, and we're going to see how it works today. So we're going to figure out what does it take to get a proposal through the ULURP process, and we're going to look at this major development proposal today. And this is just a little bit unusual because we're not doing a building. We're going to be doing our major proposal in our neighborhood of Sandwichburg. Instead of buildings, we're going to be building a sandwich. So we're going to look at the developer's proposal for new sandwiches and how it impacts our community. But before we look at the proposal, we're going to learn a little bit more about the special neighborhood of Sandwichburg and how these sandwiches are built. So like buildings, sandwiches are made of several layers, and different neighborhoods have different preferences. Some of them, like more wealthier neighborhoods, like more meat fillings, and others want to be more inclusive and might have more vegetarian fillings. But ultimately... But ultimately, we're going to just break down real quick what what's in the sandwich. So all sandwiches have to be built on bread. There's going to be a top and a bottom. And the main parts of our sandwich are going to be the filling. So the fillings can be different kinds of things. Fillings can be meat things like we have here turkey patty, pastrami, and ham. Or vegetarian ones like mushroom, seitan, or falafel. And the city has rules about how many layers are in a given sandwich and in a particular neighborhood, just like zoning. These sandwiches can also have toppings, and these are things that are nice to have in the sandwich and make a part of the sandwich. They're things like amenities in a building, things like your onions, tomato, lettuce, and the city doesn't really limit how many of these a sandwich has. Moving on, we have our extras. So sandwiches come with extras, which are sides and therefore not really a part of the sandwich itself, but they can impact how the sandwich gets built. So communities can negotiate for things on the side, such as like fair wages or unionization or money for a local school. And now that we've reviewed our fillings, toppings, and extras, we're going to review real quickly our roles, and I'm going to give you all a couple minutes to.
You tell me.
Vegetarian, brother.
I want to know what kind of sandwich he's going to build.
So, the developer, can we have you read out your role as an example? This will give everyone a good understanding of what to pay attention and their.
So I'm doing the role or the in this game?
In this game.
Okay. In this game, I, as the developer, cannot make a profit, and I will go out of business unless my sandwich has at least 4 meat filling layers. I'm willing to build 1 vegetarian filling, but only if I think it will help get my sandwich through ULURP. And I will be arguing my case at public hearings, but I'm more concerned about making sure the mayor is on my side. And this is one of the best sentences I've seen in a while. I really don't want to have to provide extras like chips or fair wages for sandwich makers. So chips, fair wages, you're not getting any of that. Yeah, not if I can choose. And I would win, I get 5 points if my sandwich has all 4 meat filling layers, but I get 0 points if I don't pass through ULURP, which is why I have to team with the mayor here. I get 1 extra point for every topping allowed, and the front side said that people really like onions. So I get 1 point for every topping, but I lose a point for every vegetarian layer required. However, I'm willing to allow mushroom in the sandwich because it's possible that I could sell it in my sandwich. And for every extra, such as fair wages or chips, I lose 2 points. So no chips, no fair wages.
Perfect. Thank you so much, developer. Read everyone's card out, but that was just an example so you all understand your role, what's important to you, and how you're going to win ULURP. So keep this in mind when you're playing the role-playing game. And even if something's on your card like, oh, you're fighting for maybe extra vegetarian layers and you don't really vibe with that personally, we're just going to go along with it so we can actually see what the process of ULURP is like. So please pay attention to your cards and just try to stick to your role. And now we're going to talk about the proposal for today. So I need the developer and the Department of City Planning to read over this development proposal. You'll be yes.
Okay. Wow. Can I ad-lib on the meat in the sandwich? I wouldn't eat smoked ham. Okay. I'm a developer. Market research shows that there's a strong demand for meat filling layers in this neighborhood. Therefore, I propose to build a sandwich made of 5 filling layers of pastrami with onion and blue cheese toppings on rye bread. It will be designed by world-famous sandwich architect Rem Koolhoagie and add much-needed smoked pastrami to the neighborhood.
As you know, I work for the mayor. The mayor is a vegetarian. There is no way you're going to get your development through the agency if there is not at least one vegetarian side or one vegetarian dish on the sandwich. You have to reconsider. If you make a proposal without vegetarian and without added-ons, it will not make it. You simply, the mayor will veto it. Yes. I mean, it says the mayor is a vegetarian. As you know, the mayor was elected because of his strong commitment to bringing more vegetarian filling layers to the neighborhood of Sandwichburg. We all know there's a tremendous need for those vegetarian sandwiches. Because of the mayor's priorities, we created mandatory vegetarian zoning, which allows developers to build larger sandwiches, if you care to do that, in exchange for including at least one vegetarian layer. If you replace one of your ham layers with a mushroom vegetarian filling, it would meet this requirement. At least one. You cannot get it through without one. We also have recommend that you take the blue cheese out of the proposal. Blue cheese is terrible for the arteries. There have been a lot of community complaints about cheese smells recently, and we don't think the City Planning Commission will approve the proposal unless you remove the cheese. So you got to remove the cheese. You got to include a vegetarian layer.
So, developer, in my evil voice, I say, we'll think about it. Okay. Well, we ran the numbers, and we paid our consultants, and we adjusted our proposal. We removed the blue cheese and changed one of the meat fillings to vegetarian, mushroom, in fact. We'd like to point out that we can only afford to do this if we can sell the sandwich at luxury sandwich pricing. Here's our sandwich proposal. 4 layers of pastrami, 1 of mushroom, 1 topping of onions, on rye bread, no extras.
Good. Not great, good. We think the City Planning Commission will love that sandwich. Unfortunately, it is a big enough change to the neighborhood that you're going to have to do a study of the environmental impacts and write an environmental impact statement. Public hearing, CDP. Okay, here we are at our environmental study public scoping meeting to find out what the community thinks. What do you all think? The developer has to study 2 scenarios. What happens if nothing changes, and what happens if the full proposal is built? The developer study has to look at 1, land use impacts, 2, sandwich shadow studies, 3, neighborhood character, 4, traffic. What else should the developer look at?
Serious need for more vegetarian filling in this neighborhood. So I oppose this idea of just a four meat filling layer, and I think we should think more thoroughly about our options. I also support requirements for more vegetarian filling layers, especially falafel, based on the needs of this community and their demands. We also need extra sides. A side pickle and fair wages for sandwich makers at the least. Once again, this ridiculous idea of blue cheese stops now. Opposed to its toppings or onions on sandwiches. There's already a serious air quality issue in this neighborhood.
Great. Thanks so much for your input on the cheese. The developer can now complete the study and submit the proposal to ULURP.
Sometime later.
Developer.
I like how it says that DCP acts as if they're taking notes, which is what happens in real life. Developer. Please. Thank you.
I wouldn't shut you up.
Having studied the environmental impacts, we now present our final sandwich for ULURP, which is exactly the same as before we studied the environmental impacts. So you pretended to take notes about the community, and I pretended to take notes about that as well, but I'm not changing anything. My final sandwich, 4 layers of pastrami, 1 layer of mushroom, 1 topping of onions, on rye bread, no extras.
That's an improvement. but we're not there yet.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, developer and DCP. Now with that, we've settled on our sandwich for today's sandwich. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to start the ULURP process. So each of you will have 3 minutes right now to talk to anybody in the room that you want to. This is when you want to be smart about who you talk to when you're getting asked for their opinion. Use it wisely because a lot of ULURP is shaped in these behind-the-scene conversations. We'll do these 3 minutes. I'd advise you to just look at your roll card and figure out who it's best to strategize with right now during these 3 minutes. And we'll take it straight to the proposal. So we'll take this proposal through the ULURP process. Each group will have a time limit. Instead of the 50 to 60 days that we talked about previously, we're going to do this all in 3 minutes. Use your 3 minutes to review the proposal and either recommend or vote on it depending on your position. If you are required to have a public hearing, like community board, CPC, and city council, you will raise your public hearing paddles during that time. Borough president, it's optional for you. If you want to, you can. But just remember that during those 3 minutes, you still need to either vote or recommend on this checklist that we will be passing around today that'll keep track of all the changes that are being made. So be wise about your time, and don't forget to vote or recommend. When we pass the clipboard, please be sure to write down the full recommendation and any changes or modification that you want, or else they do not count.
So at what stage of the process are we in? Are we past the Department of City Planning?
I'm going to pass it to you shortly after we do the behind-the-scenes conversations for 3 minutes, and that is when you will certify the start of the process.
Okay.
We're in the information gathering, environmental review stage.
Are we trying to get people to make changes to it, or I'm not? What are we doing every 3 minutes?
You're trying to push through your agenda. That's on the back of your character card. So you know what you care about based on what's on the back there.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna
can I
adjust
lobby the mayor and then the public as CPC?
If you can get that done in 3 minutes behind the scenes, yes.
Yeah,
We
you're
haven't
gonna lobby
started
the
yet.
mayor to be more harsh.
Okay, so the 3 minutes, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was about to start lobbying for
Right.
VP.
Any questions before we start the 3 minutes? Okay, starting now.
Oh.
Yeah, we all have to listen to you basically.
Certainly need to take into consideration the demands.
I need the support. Well, actually, I do need your support.
I would just share
So,
that
but
if
you're,
the city
you
council
called the
is
start of this,
like,
you're okay with what I have right now.
It's like, it's from the, vegetarians, it's on traditional,
Mushroom,
but we
corned beef, and
better
bread.
spend the time.
And you signed off on the Okay, so as the mayor, do we like my proposal as it stands now, or do I have to change it if I want to get the approval of anybody else?
See, I'm like a city council that wants all the extra.
Oh, yeah. Like our current mayor.
Elected me. So let's think out of the sandwich box a little, and.
I'm in the business of making sandwiches.
No. So what I'm
we were
saying is,
saying that
just
the
because
needs that
our
represent the needs of
is
the
in the
community, or that there is
rare
a
category,
need for extras,
couldn't we
especially
have
pickles and a fair wage for sandwich makers. And
pickles
while
as our
we know that
vegetarian.
we're willing to
I mean,
was
with
the
that,
point for
because I mean,
on
mushroom,
the
which is
vegetarian
nasty
side
with
of
this
it, in order for greater weight.
So you want to sub the
I would,
mushroom
I,
out?
yeah.
And
May I
replace it
suggest
with
vegan cheese?
Yeah, or something like that, as a way of,
As a layer?
I know, but I'm just saying, like, that's within the existing opportunities.
Well, you want to remove mushroom entirely?
I think I'll take.
Cool with removing mushroom. And I get a point for each topic. I'm okay with actually, I'm okay with every topic.
I think I created an mandatory.
1 minute left.
So,
Keep the mushroom in.
so there's that, you have to comply.
Well, what if I replace it with falafel? Because the community wants falafel. And I will lose a point. Falafel is fried plant. Yeah.
It's like the shawarma cart.
I know all the good falafel spots in case you're really curious. But,
Definitely push for the
I would
extra,
take the
but
mushroom
no
out
blue cheese or
and I will
onions.
replace it with
Keep- allow them
falafel.
to keep the smell.
And that's vegetarian filling. And then,
I'm just saying
but I
the
need at
comments
least
here.
3
I
toppings.
can
need
get
some
rid of
toppings to
that.
go.
Because I'm gonna lose a dollar on replacing mushroom with falafel. So instead of 2 toppings, I'd like 3.
Or.
And it doesn't have to be cheese and onions, but if it's
Or avocado.
avocado, lettuce, and tomato, avocado,
makes
lettuce,
sense.
and peppers, I'd be okay with that. So I want 3 toppings.
I need you to support this process.
What are you lobbying me for?
I'm lobbying you for the process that we've approved.
Okay.
But you don't want me to.
Alright, everyone, that's
Okay.
time, please, here.
I know, but the mayor is a good mayor. The mayor will do the right thing by you. What do you want?
Alright. Why not try to go on the
I think I have the chance to make you.
I just believe this myself.
All right, so we're going to start the process now. All the behind-the-scene conversations are over. You can speak at your next public hearing session. I'm passing it to the Department of City Planning to certify our process, and then we can start and go straight to the community board after that. Waiting on you.
Today's sandwich.
It usually takes, would probably be
Okay, cool.
Are we good?
You checked it?
Are we good?
I think we're in agreement. Well, we're
That's
certifying.
ridiculous.
Are we certifying what?
The start of the ULURP process.
Okay.
It's certified.
All right.
All right, pass it over
Community
to
board.
community board. Community board, you now have 3 minutes, and you are holding a public hearing. Please leave time at the end to write down any recommendations, modifications that need to be done.
I can speak on the I'm sorry.
Okay, then start your minutes.
I can speak in the public hearing.
Yes, you can participate.
Are you the only one who can speak in public hearing?
I'm the
We
only
for
one.
those
Yeah,
3
public.
moments, right? Up on the
Yeah, for
board.
those who remember.
Yeah.
So I recall from our discussion that as a board that we discussed was that we said no with recommendations. We recommended that there be more layers, vegetarian layers. We also recommended that there are extras. That is something we are not going to stand. We're going to stand for that. We will die on that hill. And and we are
Pickle Hill.
we are
Pork chop hill.
Pickle Hill.
It's gonna die on pork chop hill for the vegetarians.
and we are very much opposed to smelly toppings like blue cheese and onions because they are a serious air quality issue for our community. So no with recommendations is where the community board stands.
And I, as the borough president, I make the same, recommend no unless modified, into the community and what the community wants. So I'm here, to echo their sentiments.
That's nice of you to show up at that public hearing. I don't know.
They invited me. Good friends with the mayor.
You have a minute
And the
and a half.
commissioners.
And what are the recommendations?
Eliminate blue cheese,
Eliminate blue cheese
And
extras,
toppings,
more
and maybe
extras.
extras.
Dying on the pork chop hill.
What are the fillings and what are the topics and what are the extras?
We aside of pickles and fair wages for sandwich makers.
Okay.
pickles and sandwich.
So I can, okay, so I'm the developer, so this is where I
You're
can
a
say.
public hearing.
Yeah, well, so it's no with recommendations, so I'll tell you that I'm willing to, replace the, I can remove the cheese and the onions, but I would like to put in peppers, tomatoes, lettuce, and avocado, which are the other toppings that are not cheese and onions, which will allow me to sell it at a more luxury price point. And I'm willing to include pickle, because it sounds like you would say no otherwise, so I'll give you pickle. I will remove cheese and onions, but I will have 4 other toppings. And I was also
You
told...
can go in the store, brother.
I make points on the toppings. I make points on the toppings. I'm still profitable.
Wait, quick question. Lettuce not qualify as an additional vegetable? Like,
No, I think vegetarian is just mushroom, seitan, and falafel.
No, lettuce.
All
right.
Yes.
We're ready to
Why was I was gonna remove mushroom for falafel at the
This developer
recommendation
doesn't even know
of
his plan.
somebody.
I
think the city planning commission lobbied me to add falafel.
We got 3 minutes. So what did the community board vote?
The community board voted
Or
for
recommended, sorry.
no recommendations. It says no, but the recommendations are added there, so it's not like a no by the community board. So the recommendations were, the borough community board decided 4 vegetarian options, a side of pickles, and no onions.
Ooh, and no meat.
So right now we have 4 vegetarian fillings.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, wow.
Oh, that's terrible. I'm gonna die. And I'm the borough president. You guys are gonna be dead before you know it.
So let's
We're looking at the health of our community.
So,
Yeah,
vegetarian
that's-
option
yeah.
4,
Looking out for my health.
pickle sandwiches, no onions.
He's riding a bicycle with Celeste.
Okay,
And
then it
eating-
goes to him next, yeah.
It goes
Oh,
to
yeah,
the-
that's right.
And he eats tofu.
Okay, so it's now coming to the borough president for 3 minutes.
And you also say.
You can have a public hearing, you don't have to, it's your choice.
No, I'm not gonna have a public hearing, I wanna hear them.
What time it starts?
Right here in this category, borough president. You can either check yes, yes with changes, no, unless modified, or no.
Are you holding a public hearing?
He's
Okay.
writing his modifications.
I'll see how it is.
Hearsay.
So the mayor wanted me to have a mandatory vegetarian filling, but now the community's saying they want four.
And you agree.
I agreed
So
to
what the
one.
community wants?
Okay, so
The community wants.
No, we
Because
I think I'm also gonna let them know my whole thought.
the mushroom.
Yeah.
Somebody said they didn't want mushrooms.
Someone said that was
Mushrooms. Now I don't remember.
Yeah.
It's really so hard to actually know who wants what here.
What they want. All
Right.
right.
It's easier when you're in power.
We are at, should we call it early? The borough president has decided, no unless modified. The borough president wants what the community wants. And the community wants 4 vegetarian options, a side of pickle, and no onions.
I listened to my seniors,
No
they were
cheese.
saying that they want to last longer, so why not?
There we go.
There we go.
Appreciate it.
But I will buy it.
You
I'll
can
eat
still go to
my-
McDonald's.
I'll eat McDonald's or fried
Something
chicken.
else.
Or something fried chicken. or
Yeah.
something.
So I'm gonna have a public hearing now.
City Planning Commission?
Planning, yeah.
Okay.
So, let's see, so, 4 vegetarian options. Now, my question for you is, so the environmental impacts have been improved, but what are the cost impacts of a 4 vegetarian option? Because I think if the price points are, I would like to know that, or is this something that hopefully will come out in our public hearing, which I think we're having right now?
Yeah, and I'm here as a developer to
Okay.
speak about it at the public hearing. I will allow vegetarian options, but one of them has to be mushroom, because that doesn't cost me money. And I lose a point for every vegetarian layer that I allow. However, I will do it because the community board and the borough president will not vote yes otherwise. So I will add 3 falafels to my sandwich. However, I want every topping besides for onions, because you didn't specify cheese this time, I noticed. I want every topping besides for onions. So I want peppers, cheese, tomatoes, lettuce, and avocado. I will give you 3 falafels with I'll lose $3 for that though. I'm counting my points. Maybe I should be private about this so you guys don't.
Yeah, maybe you should.
Yeah. And so I have I'm proposing that we'll have mushroom. Can I have 4 meat and vegetarian too?
you can't go above 5 total.
I can't go above 5 total, Patty, so I will have the mushroom, 3 falafel, 1 meat. All the toppings other than onions, and I will give you pickle. Do we have a deal?
This is the first and only time I've ever discussed anything with a developer where they kind of met my terms. So I appreciate it. I will say though that I will be the one thing that I think we are forgetting here though, which is named in our recommendations, is the idea of fair wages for sandwich vendors. Those extras being a side of pickle and other extras that are going to be added. Sorry, you add extras? You added a bunch of extras, didn't you?
I gave pickle, but
pickle.
does anything else so pickle is the extras. Yeah, I'm even willing to throw in the extras of the pickle.
There's 30 seconds left.
30 seconds.
Yeah, they'll do the city council, but the city council can't add the pickle, and I can. I think I'm still profitable.
We're doing
here.
great.
I think I'm really bad at math, but I think that.
We got it. We got a 3 vegetarian.
Oh, yeah.
Falafel, we got a pan on
I
onion.
can't make a topping unless it's 4 minutes. Well, I think I can because of all the toppings. Okay, maybe not. No, I guess I really can't.
He is committed.
Can I?
Time's up. Time is up, developer.
Well, I get 0 points if it doesn't pass. So I'm passing it anyways, and then the community will remember remember me as a nice guy.
No, you're not a nice guy. You lost.
I'm the worst developer ever.
You kidding me? We would have ate you up alive.
No, you're a great developer.
Yes. No, you're not.
Based on that sandwich, all the black people have left. And you won. And that sandwich is going to cost about $25. We're out of here.
Yeah, but I don't know if I make profit on it. It seems like I just gave everybody what they wanted.
City planning is
that's
gonna
what I wanna know.
approve with modifications, with the, whatever the new breakdown of the meat, vegetable, falafel situation of, it sounds like a terrible sandwich.
Yeah.
However, there will be no cheese, there will be no onion, this is not happening, those are the approval with, and pickles and fair wages.
We have pickles and fair wages.
Okay.
No cheese costs me $1.
Well,
you
then-
said you were gonna have
Well,
the
losing
mushroom,
a dollar,
right?
buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna do mushroom. Are you the one? City council's the one who doesn't
Yes.
want mushrooms?
No, I want the
You want
mushroom.
Yes.
Well,
We
so
also-
far it's been
CPC
written
put it in, yeah.
3 falafel, 1 mushroom,
Yep.
no cheese, no onion, and pickle, side of fair wages.
Okay, so if that's the sandwich, then I would like to approve, but I'll hold a public hearing, right?
Yeah.
So,
How much is the sandwich gonna cost?
That's what I
I mean, so I'm gonna pretend
I'm
I'm
not supposed
the
to ask you, but I
developer agreed to 3 falafel, right? 1 mushroom, and the side of pickle, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, so if that's the sandwich, then I approve, because that's exactly what the community wanted, right?
Yes, it is. It is
Okay.
exactly.
Hey.
Yeah, I know.
Yay!
Can we put meat back on the menu?
No!
That
It's
was-
like the timer.
What do I gotta do to get meat back in the sandwich? So I don't lose a point by having 1 layer of mushroom, but you wanted 4 total vegetarian?
So we asked for just at least 3 vegetarian filling.
At least 3. So can we have 3 mushroom, 2 meat? I don't make money unless that's 4 meat. I still don't know that because I have all these toppings. All these toppings are making me money. So, is there anything I can trade you that will allow me to put 1 more meat in the sandwich? Would you accept 2 vegetarian, maybe 2 mushroom, or maybe a mushroom and a falafel?
But
and
we're
3
already
meat?
at-
If
Last
you
time
can
I-
have at least 2 falafel fillings, we can settle for if you add a meat.
What about the community board members?
What about
How do y'all feel about it?
what about us? Me, I
Yeah,
mean,
we're left in the dust.
The mayor has a minimum standard that he will not change on.
Which is?
Minimum of 1
he-
one
Well,
vegetarian.
one vegetarian for every
Excellent.
4 meat fillings, which is too much because we want more.
We want
That
more
because they'll fill us more.
vegetarian.
So I'm willing to give 2, or 1 mushroom, 1 falafel, let's say, or 2 falafel. You said it has to have at least 2 falafel.
2 falafel.
And it has, and 1 mushroom,
But
And
you
one
agree
mushroom.
with her.
leading to 3 vegetarian.
Right.
And the mushroom is free, right? I could have a mushroom. No, I can have up to. Yeah, I can have a mushroom, and it doesn't cost me anything to have 1 mushroom. So I would have 2 meat filling layers here, 2 falafel, and a mushroom, leading me to 3 vegetables,
Yes.
2 meat, and I have 4 toppings, but I'm giving away the pickle.
No, absolutely not.
No, we're not
Absolutely
gonna
No,
settle.
no,
for that.
I'm adding the
Oh,
pickle.
okay,
It's my
good.
giveaway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
We're
cutting
not
it.
taking away
I
the
also,
pickle.
I also want to
We
clarify
want
no
pickle.
onions and cheese.
I heard you, community,
So
loud and clear
avocado,
on that.
lettuce, tomato,
So
peppers are an
we're an
option.
avocado, lettuce, tomato, pepper sandwich.
Excellent.
4 points. And
Excellent.
then minus
Hold on,
2 for
hold
the
on.
pickle.
So it's not 2
And
layers.
then-
What a
It
healthy
is.
community.
Okay, 2
It
layers.
is. It is mushroom.
Mushroom.
The mushroom is free because there's a 1 vegetarian filling layer, so he's already included mushroom. Then there's
So sorry, everyone.
No worries, no worries, no worries.
All right, so
I hope I got it right.
City Council has chosen approve with modifications?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Okay.
go with mine.
Thank you. The sandwich has 2 meat options with 2 layers of falafel, 1 mushroom, and a side of pickles.
With, yes.
And avocado, lettuce,
2.
onion, and pepper.
2 meat. 2 meat.
2 meat.
Okay. And now Ms. Mayor.
Ms.
And you
Mayor,
decide whether you accept or veto. Don't forget to follow your card.
Okay. And it says, in order for me to win, I had to have a minimum of 1 vegetarian filling layer is required for every 4 meat filling layers allowed. That's complicated.
Well,
It says,
you don't have, I
minimum
don't
of
think you have
1
full meats.
vegetarian
Yeah, you don't have
filling
full meats.
layer is required for
You
every
have
4
falafel as a
meat filling
is a
layers
vegetable, isn't it?
allowed.
Yeah.
You have one.
I won big time.
Something tells me
You
the
came-
mayor's gonna
you
win. This
came-
game was designed for the mayor to win it.
You're a
I wasn't asking for a layer, and I get 1 extra point for every extra vegetarian filling layer required, as long as it also comes with an additional meat filling layer. Bigger sandwiches everywhere.
Yeah, but we can't.
Whatever
I don't
that
think we
means.
can do that. I don't think we're allowed to do that. I have a 5.
But
That's
I
right.
guess that means like the extra was because you guys got
We
what?
fought,
Well,
right?
Equals, right? So I won an extra point, I think.
We're gonna do the points in a second.
Okay.
Where did you get the,
Yeah,
what is
so
it,
you,
what's the pickles? The pickles
I
are,
guess,
Pickle is
I
negative 2
accept.
points for me.
I accept.
is there an extra or is it a topping?
It's extra.
Extra, okay, so you got an extra.
Good, because this, he could have done a lot more meat.
Yeah, but then the community
No, you only
and the borough president would have said no, and then it would.
Right.
Well, I guess I
Right.
could have just
Well, he advocated for me.
ignored you guys, right? Man.
Yeah, you went, that's right.
Man, I should have just gone straight to the mayor.
What I promised the people, and he
Go
stuck
straight to the
to it,
mayor.
and you're getting a raise.
Okay.
We have a vote. All right.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
So, Madam Mayor has decided that we've accepted this proposal. So we are getting our sandwich of 2 meat options, 2 layers of falafel, 1 mushroom, and a side of pickles.
Any other toppings?
The last time toppings were discussed was at CPC, and the toppings were no cheese or onion, but everything else. So all the other toppings.
All the other toppings,
But cheese and onion.
but cheese and onions.
So
What happened with
4.
the cheese, man?
Come out with
Cheese
exactly
tastes
0
good.
points, I think. Break even nonprofit.
Okay, let's see how many points everyone got. So you think you got 0 points?
Because I have negative 1 point for every vegetarian layer required, so I have, except mushrooms, so I have 2 falafels, so that's negative 2. And then minus 2 points for the pickles, so I have negative 4.
Right.
Then I have 1 for avocado, 1 for lettuce, 1 for tomatoes, 1 for peppers. Zero.
Nonprofit developer.
You lost all your money.
Love you.
Sandwich that nobody will eat, you know? It's great, we're all winners here.
Okay, great. Department of City Planning. How many points do you
I
have?
believe I got 5 points because if at least 1 vegetarian filling layer is required for every 4 meat filling.
Well, you exceeded that.
I exceeded that, so I got 5 points. I got another point for every extra vegetarian filling layer required, as long as it comes with an additional meat filling. No additional meat filling, 1 vegetarian, which is a pickle, I guess. And 1 additional point if the City Planning Commission approves it, and they did. So I got 7 points.
Wow.
No, I don't think you get, I don't know if you only get 5 points if I have 4 meat layers.
If at least 1 vegetarian filling is required for every 4 meat filling.
You don't even have 4.
Yeah,
We don't have 4.
So you're at 2 points.
That's 5, isn't it?
But wait, it doesn't say it has to have.
No, I think you
4,
got 1 point.
1 point from 6?
To get 5
I really
points.
took you down with
Yeah, both of you guys are not right.
Yeah.
You would have gotten 5 points if there was 1 veggie layer plus 4 meat layers. So
Oh, if I had
you need to
gone with
keep that
ham.
proportion.
Oh, I thought it was supposed to go against it.
And it's important for community members to show up to the public hearing.
Right. And you didn't get this point because for every extra veggie layer, you need it with an extra meat layer, which didn't happen.
So I had to side with him.
Yeah.
Okay, but you
I
got
had to lobby with him. Yeah, it's all right.
1 point.
1 point.
Okay, community board,
I think we got 7 points.
Wow.
Whoa.
7 points.
I think so.
Yeah, let's.
Yeah, I'm pretty
I
sure.
think we did. So it's 5 points if all new sandwiches are required to have at least 3 vegetarian filling layers. We definitely got that.
No, you got, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We
five
got
points.
three.
Two
We had three
falafel and one
vegetarian.
one.
If they get
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
want.
so that if all are required to have at least three, so we got those 5 points.
City council.
And if
And
the
one
borough
point's for that,
president
too.
gets what he or
Yeah.
she wants,
Yes, for each falafel vegetarian filling layer required,
Right.
we got falafel, that's another point.
and
we
the
got another-
local community council member gets what she wants, right?
You guys are lucky
Okay.
Christian left.
Ah.
What?
Because community member 2
Disagrees
disagrees with community member 1, but you got 7 points.
You got 7 points, yeah.
Oh, wow. See that? That's what happens when you get on the
So
board.
Christian, he would have been like
And
a
you know, arguing with community member one and agreeing with you.
pro-development
Yes.
community board member.
Yes.
Yeah, it has.
See, no, I was just,
Yeah.
soul.
Right, right.
So
You
I
made some
was
great
like-
points.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how I got confused, falafel is meat.
No.
Falafel, no,
It's
no,
not.
it's for
It's a-
chickpeas.
It's chickpeas.
No, it's
Yeah.
right, but I'm thinking, does it sounds have any meat at all in those sandwiches? I'm like,
It's got two
We have 2 layers.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
It has the 4 layers, but just 2 are meat and 2 aren't.
Right, right.
2 are meat.
Two are meat
Yeah,
and
and
two
then
are.
the mushrooms.
You get a
Alright.
perfect sandwich that's
Borough
like half
president?
falafel,
It's
half
equal
falafel. It's
because-
called
I think
falafel.
it's
Which is what this is.
It's
a
a
lot of
community gets
everyone
recommendation it makes, and the mayor gets what he or she wants. Make a sandwich would require veggie filling layers, so it's 5, no?
That's right.
That's right, I get my 5. Yeah, I know how to work it, I know how to work it. I didn't create
Yeah,
no
we
way.
didn't hold the public
I
hearing.
didn't, just, don't worry,
It's
I didn't,
alright.
I went there,
You
I went
got-
with you guys, don't worry about it.
I agree.
Yeah, I went with you guys, I stood on the, like, yo, what you want, let's go.
We thank you for looking after the
I
health
have
of the
to.
community.
That's it, that's why I'm gonna be your next borough president.
Yeah.
True.
I
Yeah,
hope
okay.
I'm
This is
around
how
to
you
vote.
should play out. Because it's like you guys really won for the community.
Yeah, that's why we're a
Okay,
community
so
board.
how many points did you get?
So I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
So it says 5 points if the proposal passes more or less as presented to you at the beginning of ULURP by DCP. I don't think it is anywhere near that. So I don't get, but I do get a point, and I get 1 or 2 for making changes recommended, definitely by the community board or borough president. I think, though I guess the borough president didn't make any changes. It was just so I get 1 point for making the no
change
onions,
for
no
them, yeah.
cheese. Yeah.
Yeah,
That sounds right. Okay.
that's one.
Okay, city council.
City council, so I got 5 points because there's at least 2 falafel vegetarian filling layers. And then I got 1 point because, we got, him to change, to a mushroom layer, right?
I think I was always going to do that.
Oh, well, okay, I got a point for that.
We get a point because you changed it.
And then I get a point because, the developer decided to go with the pickle for fair wages, right?
That's right.
That's
7
points.
points.
Wait,
Wow, good
but
job.
don't you maybe even 8 for each extra, plus
Oh,
1 for
yeah.
each one?
I only get,
And
oh wait, because fair
pickle
wages.
or
Yeah.
fair wages, so did both of those end up in it or
Yeah,
no?
because I
Yes.
got a,
Well, pickle and fair
Pickle-
wages.
So
I think pickle
they
is
each,
like
that's
yeah.
each a
fair
point.
wages.
oh.
Isn't that, they're separate points,
Oh,
right?
okay, well,
Two-
there was only 1 extra. He
Oh,
added
Yeah,
the pickle
I
extra.
only had the
Okay.
pickle.
So I get 7.
Okay, mayor?
Okay.
Sorry, Madam Mayor.
It says, I get 5 points if a minimum of 1 vegetarian filling layer is required for every 4 meat fillings layers allowed.
No,
Not for me.
It says a minimum though.
Yeah,
So,
that's,
but
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
I think I get
is
5
confusing
points for
me.
that,
Yeah,
don't I?
confusing, but yeah.
Is that written the same as yours?
Yes, it is.
I think it's the same as
It's
this.
the same.
Because
It's the same.
Then we
It's
need to
the
give it
same.
to him then. if
Uh-huh.
We give it to you.
Well,
That's a huge pickup for you.
there is, but
I think the keyword is minimum. It's not like,
Oh, okay.
because you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
have like a
If
12
a
layer
minimum
sandwich.
of 1 vegetarian filling
So we
layer.
are meeting that 1.
Yeah.
so,
Even though
so
I'm
that
not
the
meeting the
4
4.
is not a requirement.
But it's a
Exactly.
minimum, yeah.
Exactly.
I think
and
that-
that's how I was reading when you were
Oh,
saying.
so if
I
I
think
had
you
if
get
I had
those
5
5,
meat layers,
yeah.
you would lose out on the points. But
Yeah.
since I don't, then you get
Yeah,
the points.
I think,
Yeah, I think city planning gets 5 points for that. Right?
yeah, and the mayor.
What else do you score points for? 'Cause you might still win here.
And it says for every vegetarian filling layer required,
Oh, like I
as
didn't do
long
well,
as
but
it
I'm happy to
also
see everyone
comes
else.
in additional meat filling
So
sandwiches everywhere. So I don't know, it doesn't tell me about extras and sides and stuff like that. You know, I could get, the extras and sides meant for the fair wages and all that. This doesn't say anything about extras.
That's right.
Sides and whatnot.
You
So
don't-
I can only just, how can I score that extra point?
I don't think you did.
I didn't. I didn't, right, so.
So you got 5 points.
Yeah, I get reelected. And delivering on my promise.
Okay.
Excuse me, don't forget the
Yeah,
math.
so let's say,
Yes.
Well, they are actually written differently.
They're written differently.
These are the same as mine.
I know they should be. So I don't know if that's
Members
are the
Yeah,
big
I was gonna
winners.
say,
These are
community
new.
members. We have points.
This is
We have
the
points too.
We can give you the points.
Yeah, let's do that.
Thank
Yes.
you.
You will be in first place anyways, but.
Very proactive.
And community members?
Oh, yes.
Community members don't
We're
exist
fighting
in
over-
this.
I was gonna
this-
say.
Way enough, right?
Oh, right.
Community board.
Community members get
So we got
5
5 points if all new sandwiches are required to have at least 3 vegetarian filling layers.
Yeah,
We
we
got-
did that.
got that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1 point for each falafel vegetarian layer. So for each, there were 2.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Killing it.
that's
Seven.
that's
No, and
Hold on.
a point for the extras. Oh, no, the community.
Hold on. This is if all new sandwiches. We were just doing one sandwich here, but okay.
But
Sorry.
we
This is
adapted.
development proposal.
This is
Yeah.
a new
We adapted the sandwich. We
Sure,
adapted
sure,
it.
sure.
So it becomes a new sandwich.
5 points. 5 points.
1 point for each falafel vegetarian layer. There were 2 of them. There were 2 falafel layers. That's 7. 1 point for getting a ban on blue cheese and or onion toppings. That's another point. That's 8. And then 1 point for each extra outside the sandwich, which we got. We got pickles.
Killing
a
it
pickle
over
with
there.
fair wages.
Well played,
I think it's 10 points.
10?
Because it's 1 point each for a ban on blue cheese.
Oh,
and
yeah,
onion
you got both.
toppings.
Oh, you got
Yeah.
2 then. Wow, 10 points.
There we go.
This whole
Wow,
time.
You know, we were all on this side, that's why.
You see how important the community is? If only.
So we get 10 points in real life.
I've never played this game where this happened.
And the development got 0.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I know. This is how it should be.
All right, so we're just gonna do a little reflection time. Now that we've seen who won ULURP and we broke down the points to why, is there any strategy that you would do differently if you were able to do this again? We'll start with the developer. Yeah.
I would do a lot of different things. I guess I would flex my ability to, if I went to the community and said what I wanted to do, and they said we won't vote, we won't approve it unless you do this, then I would say I'm taking my game and going home because it's not profitable for me to do this. So my goal is if it doesn't pass through ULURP, then I get 0 points. So then I would say, well then, why would I develop a building if I'm getting 0 points anyways? Screw you guys, I'm going home. But, so I guess in the future, if I was a developer, I would just either ignore the community or just say, I'm not doing this building if you want what you want.
Yeah.
And you still might not do this building.
I guess I don't have to build it now, yeah.
You might
ULURP
sell the
just
lot.
tells me, yeah.
Oh, but I know what you can do. You can go to the what is that on and that they say that you can go with a hardship.
Oh, yeah, you
Oh, you can apply.
Yeah, you can go to Board of Standards and Appeal and say that ask for a variance that you spent $13 million and that's hard that you lost the $13 million.
People skirt us with BSA all the time. So,
You go city planning.
What would you do differently?
I don't think the city, I think I probably would have tried to lean on city planning a little earlier, maybe, or coordinate a little more between the mayor and city planning and be like, what's going, so that the proposal changed so much throughout that process. And I think if I was supposed to be trying to win points, I wanted it really not to change very much at all
Mhm.
throughout. So I think I would have done a lot more backstage politicking before.
You know, I think, I don't know whether the DCP has the ability to do this, but I will go to the developer and tell them basically what will make it through, if I have a connection to the community, what will make it through, what will it take to get through a building, and the difficulty that he's gonna face with some sectors of our community, and tell him, look, you're gonna face some opposition, you have to stand by your ground, and, you know, you wanna do this, you do it right. I will go to the mayor and tell the mayor, you gotta get to the community, you gotta tell the community why this project is good for them. Why is it good? So that they can say yes with confidence. So I would do, I don't know if we could do that as a DEP, but that's what I would
Didn't the mayor do that with Amazon at one point, the real mayor?
Oh,
And then they
that's right,
rejected it.
yeah.
You know,
But,
it was
but those
gonna
are,
be good.
but that's because
So
people
the
knew that it
Apple
was,
stuff, but the
people,
community said no.
people knew
So
that they,
you can sell, people have,
you can sell, but the Amazon is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
And community knew it, and even the small
I was
businessmen
just
knew it.
giving you an example.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to sell it.
You're really the mayor now.
I was just giving you an example.
Community member, do you want to reflect on your strategy and who you talked to?
Yeah, I think that was the first thing that came to mind, was thinking about who are the members, who are the far more powerful individuals at this table who I actually have some leverage over. And I went initially to the city council and spoke to my local district rep. Well, you are the many members of city council, but I imagined her as my local city district representative and basically said, if you'd like to be reelected, you need to. I mean, that's how you play it. Yeah, if you want to be reelected, like, you better not approve this particular developer. And then with that, we worked alongside the city council. The city, we partnered. All three of us partnered, and we went to the borough president and named, like, look, like, we will make the next 2 years very hard for you if you think that you're going to let this development take place in this community. And they could have ignored us, and then they would have had a tricky 2 years, but they did not, and instead they just sort of put their head down and said, nope, this is not happening, and best of luck, developer. Yeah.
So it seems like the power is kind of balanced out then with, well, not balanced, because obviously the mayor and the DCP are a little bit more powerful, but they're outweighed by the three of the board, the president, and the city council. And the city council is like the most powerful of that group, because they can 2/3 veto the mayor.
City council was.
Community board, you were the first person to say no to most of the recommendations. Do you want to talk about why you went in that direction?
The reason why I think of the health of the community, and you always have to put the health of the community first. Because if you don't put the health of the community and you bring all these different things that the community doesn't like, then they end up in the hospital, and in the hospital you spend more money than, you know.
I agree with you. I think that's a great idealism, and we see that in practice in Bushwick. That's not what's happening.
Actually,
You know? And we see if people put the health of the community first, then why are we getting more liquor licenses on every other block? And they're getting, and that's what those people, those business people want. That's not necessarily what the community wants. And that's very frustrating to us. I'm not a teetotaler. I'm just saying this is what happens in actuality. You know, who's making the money, and that's who these people are paying attention to. At least the state liquor license board. You know, and when we say things like I have been saying, why don't we have a swimming pool? You know, in Bushwick, why don't we have a community center? Why don't we have these other certain things that would contribute to the health and well-being of the people who live here? And we get laughed at. Oh, there's no city. There's no free this, no free that. Come on, and that's very frustrating. I think in this case, this mythological scenario that we created here, the mayor had already taken a position that the mayor can seek the help. You know, the mayor's probably looked at and say, well, wow, every street corner has a Chinese restaurant, a fried chicken place and a pizzeria. Where do people go to eat healthy? And that's how the mayor probably sold it. And the mayor, we know Eric Adams, I lost a lot of weight, I had diabetes, blah, blah, blah. He is an example of healthy eating, and people, and so that's what he ran on. So it was easy for the people here sitting at this mythological table to fight for that, a healthier sandwich, and everybody else to come into agreement with it, you know. But as we've seen, you know, the practice of it, this was fun. You know, the next time you guys do this, what's that, Schoolhouse Rock, do a Schoolhouse Rock video. How to go through how a bill becomes, you know, a law.
Yeah.
That would be a lot of fun, you know, singing the tune, and everybody would memorize it so easily like that, you know. But I enjoy this. This is a lot of fun. The thing is, we go back to and practice the reality of ULURP, and this lady is doing presentations and trying to break it down to us. And then what we haven't discussed here is these people and their lawyers. Where do the lawyers come into play with this? These developers got lawyers who look out for them and play tricks on us, which we have experienced. You know, I don't think that's the whole thing. If I were a developer, do they sit down and do a study of what the community needs?
They just
Do
kind of
they
just say supermarket.
Yeah, this is what I want.
Right.
I'm gonna lay it out for you. Do they do a study and say, you know, these people need affordable income? Can I deliver? What is going to be the impact? These are things that they can do and then present it, but they don't. And they figure they're gonna force it down their throat because they've got connections and there's a lot of corruption. We haven't talked about corruption. Who knows who? And who's getting paid and who's lobbying?
I was gonna say there was no money in that.
He wasn't like, he was like, okay, you know, I don't mind when somebody, we know that's not the reality. Come out to why he's sitting there like, you know. There's a, you know, so anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put it there, but.
That's all right.
I don't think that was it's fun. And it's a learning process.
I also think that some of the more egregious buildings in our neighborhood were just built as of right, which is kind of the issue in and of itself. Like, we don't even get this chance to sit at the table with them and say, can you bring us anything to the community? They just build it and then it's done, and then they start charging rent for it.
But you know what's really disheartening? When you take a look back, that disheartening that they say that they prefer having a building that is empty and not getting the people that can't afford to live here. So it's all right for our kids and our youth to live in shelter, but it's all right for you to leave a building empty and get a tax break. You know what I'm saying? And the way it does you want to help, you want to come here and make money, but guess what? The city's paying $200 a day for our kids to be in shelter. So if they stay 30 days, it's $6 grand. It's $6 grand.
Yeah, no,
And then they have to move.
Giving them a voucher for renting. Like,
and then they have to move a week or a month because those hotels are by law, they can't have them. So they have to move out, come back in another day and recertify and get back. So that's why you see them outside. In the front end, all the Spanish people tell me because I've been here 30 days, I have to move out. After the 30 days, I gotta move out for a day or two and then recertify to come back in. And then the voucher. But isn't the government giving away $6 grand?
But there's a federal law that says that you cannot, if I'm not mistaken, it's a federal law that says that you cannot lease.
Live in a hotel because it's not an apartment.
Yeah, you can't.
I know that,
law,
but
and so it affects the city law, and it trickles down, and it's just like let's say a daycare center or something like that. Most of these places are owned by private people, and they're rented. So let's talk about an anti-poverty program, right? Let's say daycare, senior citizen centers, where they're supposed to set up originally to eliminate anti-poverty, right? When they get their budget, a third of that budget goes to some rich landlord who lives in Florida. The rest is left for you to operate your program, pay your employees, etc. 2/3 left. But the day the landlord gets this off the top because of the federal law, and that's what's happening. And so it trickles down the same thing. You asking the question, why can't you put these people, you know, who owns the building?
Eminent
And
domain.
you can't
they did
use
in other
spendable
places.
monies for that. That's the
Eminent
problem.
domain.
Yeah.
The city should be forcing eminent domain like they did the Barclay. They threw
Yeah.
all those people in them houses that were nice. The last person stood there and got the most money for the bank and stood there, cause I remember Dilly and I went there and protested, cause a lot of people didn't wanna sell their homes.
Yeah.
A lot of people wanna live there, but since the city created eminent domain, they get them out, they paid them whatever it was.
And they
Some of the
still
people
haven't
didn't even
built-
get the money.
And they still haven't built.
And
these
still haven't built-
housing
that's
yet,
right.
Still, 10 years later. So, and also I think to pick up on your point too, a lot of the development we see in Bushwick is not even going through ULURP. Because we don't have
Yeah.
height limits, so they just, you know, slowly buy up
Yeah,
4
yeah.
blocks, you know, 4 buildings on a block, and then you turn around, that happened on Rearfield Street, there's like that huge, there's so much, I mean, there's tons of stuff, and that was all as of right, and you look up, you're like, what is that?
And it's gonna continue happening.
Yeah.
That
Until,
happened on my block,
unless,
right there on Linden and
Yep,
Broadway.
exactly, I mean, that's also as of right, that thing's what, 20 stories or
until
something?
unless, I think, I don't know what's gonna happen, but something's gotta change.
And it sounds
gonna
like our city councilors do not have an appetite for reopening the Bushwick community plan process, because they don't think there's the political will, or I don't, that's just the sense I get, so we're gonna be stuck with these,
And those buildings changed the nature of the community.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
mean, Williamsburg was once a working class neighborhood.
Yeah.
Where you could walk, you know, I mean, and look at it now, you can't.
Manhattan. And Manhattan wants to turn into community because now all those businesses are closed. So they wanna make a community in apartments. They wanna change the zoning to make apartments because a lot of those stores, people are working from home and they're not gonna continue. So I was hearing that they wanted to do that. I also was hearing that they're trying to push city council to the mayor to eliminate a process in regards to the ULURP process, in regards to themselves making decisions in regards to zoning.
I had a
So
question.
imagine that.
Something that I asked at the very beginning and we said we'd touch on again, which is, so let's say this developer comes into play, like what is the oversight body that basically decides this ULURP process needs to start? Like who is it that says like, oh, developer, you can't start yet, like it needs to go through ULURP first, as opposed to these
it's like a
incidences.
checkbox, it's like, if they wanna build, 20 stories and there's a 10-story height limit, then you have to go through ULURP. But if you're.
I think he's asking,
Like,
who
no,
calls them on it? Who
Like,
calls them on
like,
it?
like, let's say you don't check that box.
Oh.
Like you just spoke of many incidences.
Oh, I
of-
see what you're
DOB,
saying.
it's just
Oh, yeah, it's like, Department of Buildings, and somebody reviews it and they're
I
like,
would know how
that gets
effective they are.
kicked into the ULURP pile.
Somebody in
And so that's,
the
it's,
chamber.
so it's the neighbors who look and say, oh, they're
No,
doing
no,
something.
Department of Buildings.
No, COP.
It's when they apply for a building permit or,
Okay.
Yeah, when
As,
they're
as we,
present.
as we assume that some of them are doing, and we have to be,
Well, I was
people
just-
have to be educated.
Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah,
That's why I'm
yeah,
asking.
yeah, I
No,
got you.
but it's
It is
not,
the
it's
most
not down to
understaffed
like,
city
yeah,
agency
they're a
I'm
mess,
certain,
yeah, but they're,
and for a reason.
yeah,
It's something like that we should be asking city council,
yeah.
because they would know off the top of their head how does the
And
process.
DOB has like zero
DOB has,
enforcement,
because
yeah.
they're supposed to.
They're in a very bad state.
Yeah.
So the goal of ULURP at the end of the day is really just to make it more, there are more participatory members who are directly affected by the creation of this building, this development, to partake in the decision-making process. That's the goal. I guess like why is that not expanded? It just seems like there's such specific criteria for something like this to take place. Like why is this not more general? Why is this not expanded?
And the developers are trying to avoid even doing it in the first
Nobody
place.
does.
So like, so I guess like,
Yeah, they don't even want to go to ULURP
It's
because
expensive
then
to do
have the
Oh,
public
yeah,
hearings.
cause the EIS is like
time.
half of it, yeah, it's like time and.
but it's
Not,
necessary.
not only that, and if this other racial impact study comes into effect, that's more money.
Yeah.
It delays your construction by a minimum of 200 days, and that's not even counting the time that you have to prepare all the
So they
studies
prefer
before
not
you
to.
certify.
I certainly, I go through the back door. I said, well, yeah.
Cities prefer
One
not to, or
developer-
developers?
Develop.
Oh, of course
developer
developers
came
not
to
to,
us,
I'm curious why the
And they were,
CEO.
and they
Cities
were
not-
really
because
good,
they-
and
they-
working
it's
with
all as of right.
Reynoso's office when he was still the
If
city
you ask
councilor.
the right one, I
Chevron
go to
Sudan,
Sudan.
reporting that
Oh, I
Sudan
see
where
what you're saying.
it's
Yeah,
in
it's a right.
industrial space that they added to
Yeah,
and
it's a
then.
furniture place?
Yeah, the furniture
Yeah.
place, and then they built a
You're
tower
gonna do
on
it in
the parking
compliance, you
lot,
have to go through that. You got the
basically
money, you got
to
it.
pay for it, and they worked really closely with Reynoso
Of course they're
to
gonna give it to you because you're
build
building
a project that they
something.
thought
Make your money, of
would
course.
respond to state and community
Until we're
needs.
home.
And came to, they came to the community board like 3 to 4 years before the ULURP certification started. So they had been remember the 349 Sudan, like they started coming to us like 3 or 4 years before the ULURP clock even started. And I mean, they're a rare example of a super responsive developer that built something.
They would have done not whatever you asked for. But
No, I mean, they
just,
said we wanted more affordability, and they said we can't make the numbers work. This is as far, you know. So, and then the guys who are building the Linden Seniors First, just down the street, I mean, that project didn't change at all, because, but it has.
But the project that's on DeKalb, that project didn't go through. Which was
Oh, no, that was as of right, that was the church building, yeah. The 286, it's that really tall tower, the gray, and it's right over Hernandez. I think that's all.
And that man had he had a hard time, you know what? Because I had spoken to him, they had said that from X amount of square footage, he would collect the rent, and they would collect the rest of the time. But just to put something in there, and they were trying to stop it, I heard. He got into it, but I guess they went to lawyers and they picked whatever money-wise that they had, but.
It was, that poor guy got a terrible deal.
Yeah, terrible deal.
And it's church, and they didn't even build a nice new church.
But now it's all tied up.
Yeah, it's all nice. It looks like they never even moved back. So yeah, but that was as of right, because I think it was all just R6.
So they don't, as of right, they don't have to come through for the community.
All they do is they, pay their little fee, and.
So that's, and so my question is this: is the strategy then to buy each house block by house and on the block?
I mean, that's
And then you own the block, and then once you own the block, you can put up anything you want. And I'm thinking, is this the strategy? What's happening? You got these LLCs, all right, people might have, if they can keep acquiring each house.
I would not be surprised, and I think also.
And they're already zoned or whatever, then you can build them as high as they want. Because Bushwick is not regulated, regulated and make the apartment as small
You already
as
see
they
it.
want.
And I think that the crazy looking like round curvy building right around Warefield, it's by the food bazaar, like the French food bazaar. And somebody was trying to buy that building too, and they were gonna like. No, it's on the Ridgewood side, by House and stuff, and that thing, I think, was a parking lot, but it had never been rezoned. It was always, still the zoning was residential, somebody knocked down, turned it into like a parking lot for a while. And oh my, I was like,
because it's
what? And they never come before us because they don't need to.
And they tell the new people they don't have to hold up to anything.
That's what the food signs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
And now we say no, and it has to be deeded out. So we are.
The handouts,
Thank you
not
so
the
much.
cards.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
It's great. And I don't like veggie, but I'll try to buy some veggie salad.
Yes, you need to be healthy.
Please, everyone, don't forget to fill out the. You don't know which Houston.
Oh, a house.
You got sandwiches like
Okay. A house.
If you'd like to buy a book, they're $10.
I think Celeste mailed it to
That you
you.
mailed me when I first
Yeah,
joined
these
the
are,
board.
she mailed everybody,
Oh, great.
we all have them.
Oh, sweet. Okay, cool. When we first got these, I read all 3 of them, and I was like, biz.
Yeah.
It was taking the longest, and every day I had the PDF version of this open at work, and I would read 1 or 2 pages of it over and over again until I got
Yeah,
it.
cause it confuses.
Yeah.
It's like, you know it, but say, let me go back and read. Let me go back and see. Again and again. But it's something.
Oh.
Man, oh man, I'm sorry. She had a man's card.